Go ahead and call the January 25th meeting to order. First item of business is into closed meeting. Be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors hereby enters into a closed meeting for the purposes of discussing the following. Consultation with legal counsel and briefs from staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation or briefing in the open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of a public body. The consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring provisions of legal advice by such counsel. 1, Corning, and 2, constitutional officers under Virginia law. Discussion or consideration of acquisition of real property for the public purposes or the disposition of publicly held real property where discussions in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategies of the public body. The Reiner Public Safety Site, and discussions and considerations or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplinary, or resignation of specific officers, appointees, or employees of any public body. Juvenile Detention Commission. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. DeMotts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
6 ayes.
You gotta come down here.
Is there a motion to come out of closed meeting?
Motion.
Is there a second? Would Madam Clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Perkins? Aye. Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. DeMotts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Certification of closed meeting. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County has convened a closed meeting on the date pursuant to affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas under section 2.23711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with the Virginia law. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in, or Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. DeMotts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye, for the time that I was there.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
At this point in time, it's our time to take a moment and invocation, a moment of silence for all of us to contemplate the things that are before the board. After that, I will ask the county administrator to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
At this point in time, we have a presentation in regards to the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2015, and Mr. Aldridge with Brown and Edwards and Company. Sir, would you please come forward?
Good evening. Good to see you all this evening. You should have in front of you a bound document, which is the financial report. I think you also have it in your Dropbox as well. But what I'll do is just work with the bound document because it's easier for me to do the page numbers that way. As you know, each year you have to have an audit completed. The audit, as usual, includes the school system, the county, and other organizations such as the PSA and the county. So if you have your report, I would ask that you would turn over to page number 1 in the report. There are several Roman numeral pages, and then you get to one that's just page number 1 is the Brown Edwards logo at the top of the page. And again, as we go through, if you have questions, please stop. You want to focus in on the last paragraph, next to last paragraph there on page number 1. where it says opinion, starts out, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly. And we issued what's known as an unmodified or a clean opinion on your financial report. So again, that's the highest level of assurance we will put on there. And you've got a clean opinion. All right. After that, you have what's known as the management's discussion and analysis section. The goal there is for you to be able to read that and get a sense of what happened at the county without going into too much detail in the statements. Then you get to page number 5. And here's where I just want to touch on a few things. Something that's pretty new this year. We talked about it last year. If you look on page 5, the statement of net position, you have several columns there. You've got governmental activities, that would be primarily the general fund. You've got business type activities, that would be the water, wastewater. Then you have the school board and economic development authority. Something that's new this year, if you look in the liability section, okay, it's the third one from the bottom, the liability section. Notice that line that says net pension liability. This has never been there before. You will notice that the liability for the county's pension is $12,149,000. The PSA is $616,000. And then as you work from left to right, you see the school board. The pension liability for the school board is $79,368,231. Okay? That has never been there before. It's been disclosed. And before you get too much sticker shock, how you're going to do things day to day is not going to change. Okay? You're still going to fund it. They'll send you a bill. You'll fund it when VRS tells you to pay. You'll make those payments. But what's different, now it's actually on your statements as a liability. It's never been there before. Okay? But again, you see there, the largest piece is going to be the school board. Okay? All right.
And John, if I can just add to that, in the past, it has, those numbers have been in the report, they've been in a footnote. So one of the concerns a lot of us had was when it wound up on the financial statements, was that going to affect our bond ratings or anything like that? It had no effect because the rating agencies were already aware of it.
Correct, they knew all about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing I'll point out to you, while you're still in that section there, where the liabilities, and this is more so for the new folks on the board, notice there, right below the net pension liability, where you have that section due within 1 year and due in more than 1 year. That's talking about your long-term debt. And you can see that's right at $217 million for the governmental activities. But then when you go to the school board, it's only $10 million. The unique thing in the state of Virginia is the school system can't issue debt. So whenever they go out and get a new school building, you will put the asset on your books as well as the debt, since they can't issue it. Okay, so that's something unique. Again, it's a Virginia thing. You look at it and you say, well, where's all the debt for those school buildings? Well, that shows up on the governmental activities. So that's where you see those large numbers. All right. Now let's flip over a couple of pages to page number 7. This is looking at the governmental funds, in particular the general fund there, the first column. You'll see you've got assets, liabilities. What doesn't show up on here would be the pension liability, because it's not paid for what they call current financial resources, so it doesn't show up on these statements. But what does is your fund balance. And look at the bottom there. There are 5 categories of fund balance. You've got non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and then unassigned. That's what's left over that's not earmarked for anything, doesn't relate to bond money. That is just kind of the accumulation of what we have, okay? And one of the things we like to do is compare that unassigned fund balance to your spending. So what we'll do is we'll take your expenditures, we'll annualize those out and say, okay, how many months in fund balance do we have? And if you did that calculation, right now it would be 2.3 months sitting in fund balance, meaning if we didn't collect another dollar, which that's not going to happen, but if we didn't, how many months could we make it? And it's 2.3. That number for last year was 2.5. So again, you're seeing consistency there. I've got clients that go from maybe some as low as 0.5 to some that go over 12. So it's all over the board, what you see there. The thing you want to be able to say is it consistent? And we do understand any spikes. But again, 2.5 to 2.3 is very consistent from year over year. All right. Then, if you would flip over to just page number 11, you can look on page number 11 at your budget to actual. You can see the original budget, any amendments, and then compare to the actual results. Just want to point that out to you. It is in the statement. Okay. Starting on page 13, there we have the operations of the water and wastewater. You've got the revenues and expenses. And the things you always want to look at is actually on page 14 when you look at the cash flow statement. Because what do you want with a water and wastewater fund is user fees to be able to cover the cost. And that, the top section is what you see there. You've got, after collecting from customers and paying suppliers, we had positive cash flow of $230,000 and $172,000. So again, this is when you want to look at your water and wastewater, you want to make sure at least operations are covering the cost, because if not, then you have to, in theory, borrow from the general fund. Okay? All right. Then, if you just start on the notes, I'm definitely not going to hit all those. I do want to point out a couple of them to you. On page number 36, at the bottom of 36, you refunded some debt this past year, and in doing so, a refund was led at $11.5 million of debt. By doing that, y'all were able to save a little over $1 million. So by just refunding the debt, you saved $1 million over the next 6 years. All right. Then starting on page 37, we have the new pension disclosure. There's about 40 pages of exciting reading there on pensions. If y'all want to read that. That's all new. It was never there before. Please read that. That language, it talks all about the pension program and all the rules and factors there. But again, that's new and wasn't there before.
If you can't go to sleep at night, it's great.
That's right. Just keep it by your bedside or your tablet. On page 84, and again, I'm just going to kind of go through this very fast. Page 84, you can see the statement for the school board there. They start. You've got the assets and liabilities showing up there. And then on Exhibit A2, which is on page 85, you can see the revenues and expenditures for the schools. Okay. All right. Starting on page 88, one of the things we have to audit while we're out here is a certain percentage of the federal money that goes to the county. And on page 88 and 89, you see that the county had a little bit under $9 million of federal expenditures this year. The overwhelming majority of that's related to the school system. Again, that's all in there. All right. And then, if you have your report, starting on page 91, this is the statistical information. There's a lot of good historical info in there. I particularly would like a few of them. On page 94, your revenues and expenditures. You can kind of compare things for the last 10 years. For example, revenues. Back in 2006, the county revenues were $78 million. This past year, there were $115 million. So again, you can kind of see the growth over those 10 years. Along those same lines, if you flipped over to page number 102, you can see who the principal employers are, comparing 2015 back to 2006. In both cases, Virginia Tech was your largest employer, but the items, I guess, people 5 through 10 have changed over that same period of time. So again, there on 102, you can see the employers. All right, the last thing I will mention, and I have to answer any questions, on page 112, the schedule of findings and question costs, this kind of is a summary of the entire audit. The item I would like you to focus on briefly is look at item A7. That lists out all the federal programs that we tested this year. You can see school breakfast, school lunch, special ed, and a few others. And I'm pleased to tell you, in testing all those programs, there were no findings whatsoever related to federal money. So, again, no findings at all related to that. So, anyway, it's a lot in a short period of time. The key things to take away: you have a clean, unmodified opinion. You put on the pension standards this year. And again, doing the single audit work of the federal, we have no findings. But I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I'll start. Questions? Carol? April?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Mary? Thank you very much.
Thanks, John.
Next on the agenda, we have a presentation by the General District Court Clerk regarding employee compensation. Oh, and it looks like it's the Juvenile and Domestic Relations Clerk on our agenda.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Amy Blankenship, and I'm the clerk with the Montgomery County Juvenile and Domestic Court. I have been a clerk there for almost 5 years and have been an employee for almost 11 years. I love my job, and I love the people that I'm privileged to work beside of every day. First of all, I would like to thank Montgomery County for the wonderful building that we're provided to work in each day. We work in a building that most could only dream of. We have a well-furnished and secured work area that we did not previously have. We have court security that most are not fortunate to have. The county also provides us with some of our office supplies and furnishings, and we are again very thankful for that and try to keep our spending to a minimum. We have a carryover amount at the end of each year in our county budget. While I have a very nice and spacious office toward the back, I spend most of my time at a spare desk in the front of the clerk's office. So when I tell you that these ladies work hard and that they're very dedicated, I see it firsthand every day. Many people may be unfamiliar with the JDR court process, so I will share some of the things that we do. First of all, we hold court 5 days a week, every week. We process, and by process, I mean data entry into the computer system, issuing summons and subpoenas, and preparing and updating court orders. And they are as follows. Initial petitions for custody, visitation, support, and paternity. Motions to amend current custody and visitation and support orders. Motions for show cause, for failure to pay support, or failure to obey court orders. All juvenile traffic and criminal matters, domestic-related criminal matters, as well as crimes against minors. Family abuse protective orders, child protective orders, and child removal orders filed by the Department of Social Services. Foster care, divorce remands, and initial adoption filings. We also provide notice and present driver's license to all newly licensed drivers under the age of 18 that reside in Montgomery County. We receive payments for filing fees, court costs, fines, and restitutions, and disperse the funds to the appropriate party, locality, or agency. I think Ms. McKittrick has provided you with some reports for our 2014 filings. But the most important thing that we do is provide customer service to the citizens of Montgomery County and the state of Virginia. We deal with hundreds of people on a weekly basis, whether by phone, mail, email, or in person, and it is done with courtesy, respect, and professionalism. Not including myself, there are 4 other full-time employees in our clerk's office. 1 employee with almost 12 years experience, 1 with 11 years, another with 8 years, and another with almost 4. The employees that know their job from front to back, and they are extremely dedicated. They are on time and stay over when needed. They do not receive any overtime when they stay late, only comp time. 3 of my employees at one time or another have worked second jobs, and 1 is still working a second job, so she's not here tonight. And I and 2 others in the office use a large portion of our paychecks to pay for child care. I realize that we are state employees, and I know that work is being done in Richmond to increase our salaries. I'm here today to ask for a 15% supplement to our current salaries. For the past year, we have received 2 to 4% salary increases from the state. However, along with most of these increases, there has been an increase in health insurance premiums or retirement contributions that result in no real increase in our paychecks. And I know that myself and my staff are appreciative of these increases. There are numerous localities in the state of Virginia that provide salary supplements to their district court. Some of the local ones are Carroll County, Roanoke City, Roanoke County, and Salem combined. Over my 11 years of working in the Supreme Court of Virginia, I have seen many employees leave for other state agencies or private companies due to their salaries. I feel so very blessed to have the highly skilled and dedicated staff that I have, but I constantly fear that I'm going to lose them to other agencies or private companies. And this would not only affect me, but it would affect the citizens of Montgomery County. And I think Ms. McKittrick has also provided you with the current salaries as well as years of service for my staff. And I thank you for your time, and I ask you to please consider this request.
We'll start on this end. Mr. King, is there any questions you have? Ms. Perkins? Mr. Creed? Ms. Biggs?
Do you have any idea how much money that would be?
It would, when I figured it up, it was $25,900.
Okay, thank you.
Annually?
Yes, ma'am.
And I apologize for missing this. You said you have how many employees in your office?
Myself and 4 other full-time.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just say thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
In regards to, we have any action at this point in time that anyone wants to take based on the presentations that were before the board? Oh, Ms. McKittrick, I'm sorry. I didn't know there were 2 presentations. I was looking at it. Should have known better.
I think the agenda might have been a little messed up. Good morning, good afternoon,
Evening.
Chris, and the members of the board. I too want to so appreciate the new building that we're in. We are very fortunate, and while there's lots of things to be thankful for in that building, we feel very secure, and that's a lot of pressure off of all of us. My name is Kim McKittrick. I am the clerk of the Montgomery County General District Court. I've held this position for 7 years. However, I've been employed by the Montgomery County court system since 1988. My duties can be classified in 4 major groups: financial management, record management, personnel management, and public relations. Our judges hear cases 5 days a week. If you've never had the pleasure of visiting our court, you can pat yourself on the back, because this means you're fortunate enough not to have received a traffic violation in Montgomery County. The General District Court Clerk's Office is made up of myself and 10 deputy clerks, most of which are here tonight. They are an award-winning staff, having received the prestigious Excellence in Customer Service Award presented by the Supreme Court of Virginia. I like to refer to the General District Court and my staff as the face of the courts. While all 3 courts serve a very meaningful function in the overall operation of the court system, the General District Court is by far the most high-volume court of the 3. The General District Court hears all traffic cases and all criminal misdemeanors. We also hold preliminary hearings on felony charges. We hear violations of local ordinances, civil cases where the amount in question is less than $25,000, and landlord disputes. We issue garnishments and protective orders. The General District Court also is responsible for conducting commitment hearings for mental patients, and the clerks are responsible for sending a report to the state police should these patients lose their ability to purchase, possess, or transport a firearm. I think it's safe to say we are very busy and perform important tasks each and every day. For most offenses in the General District Court, the penalty will include a fine. These fines are assessed and collected by my well-trained, diligent staff. Each fine collected, depending on the code cited for the violation, is paid into the treasury of this county or the state. The most recent statistics I have available to me indicate that my staff performed 46,195 transactions in 2014 and collected $378,793.69 of local funds, which were forwarded to Montgomery County. Now, please bear with me as I describe a day in the life of my fictional character, Joe. Joe wakes up early one Saturday morning and makes plans to go fishing on the New River. As he drives through the streets of Christiansburg, he fails to stop for a red light and is stopped by Officer Jones with the Christiansburg Police Department, and he is cited for a traffic violation. Once back on the road, he heads down 460 and is soon stopped by Deputy Smith with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department, who explains to Joe that he has no taillights on his John boat. Poor Joe gets cited for defective equipment. Still determined to catch the big one, Joe continues on to his favorite spot on the New River. Once there, he launches his boat, but soon meets up with Warden Beal, who asks Joe for a fishing license. And as you can guess, he didn't have one. Frustrated, Joe decides to call it a day. However, shaken by the events of the day, he stops and partakes of his favorite alcoholic beverage on the riverbank. He then gets behind the wheel of a truck and as he's driving home, swerves onto incoming traffic and is involved in a traffic accident. As a result of one day in the life of Joe, the General District Court receives the following summonses or warrants. Failed to obey a traffic light, defective equipment, failed to obtain a fishing license, DUI, refusal of a blood test, and reckless driving. While this may seem to be an exaggerated example, I submit to you that our court processed 30,678 new cases in 2014. In Joe's case alone, the possibility of a $5,000 or more will be collected and transferred to the Treasury of Montgomery County or the state. In addition to assessing and collecting fines, my staff and I field thousands and thousands of phone calls each year. We maintain the court schedules of more than 200 police officers from Montgomery County Sheriff's Department, Blacksburg, Christiansburg, and Virginia Tech Police Departments, the Virginia State Police, ABC officers, and game wardens. We spend countless hours coordinating court dates with the legal community, granting continuances and issuing summonses, subpoenas, and other court processes. These fundamental duties are performed by my friendly, knowledgeable staff 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, or more. Sadly, some of these highly dedicated, skilled employees are struggling. Many are working second jobs. Several would qualify under the current guidelines as being indigent, and they would also qualify for public assistance. Desperate times call for desperate measures. I'm here tonight for what I believe to be the first time in the history of the district court system to ask for your help. I'm asking that you compare the duties and salaries of the office which most resembles what we do, the circuit court clerk's office. I surmise that you will find that while the duties and responsibilities are very similar, the salaries are not. This county is providing a substantial salary supplement to the circuit court clerk's office. A supplement that is not required. However, I assume at some point the board recognized there was a need. I have provided you with some information that shows the discrepancy in these salaries. While I was unable to obtain the full dollar amount of the supplement, I'm sure the board can obtain or make have those figures. I believe you will find that the 15% that we are requesting to be insignificant in comparison. Additionally, I've provided you with Virginia Code 16.1-69-45, which gives you the authority to supplement district court clerk salaries wholly out of local funds. Funds I submit to you have been carefully assessed and collected by the clerks in the district courts. I've also provided you with a list of other district courts from around the state who are receiving supplements from their localities. By granting this request, you can complete what I like to call the pie of justice. The way I see it, you're providing supplements to the sheriffs who initiate the charges, the prosecutors who prosecute the offenders, but only one of 3 clerk's offices. As I have explained, we, the district court, are a crucial part of the pie. We tirelessly collect the funds that offset all the costs associated with bringing these cases before the court. We're only asking for our small piece of the pie. In closing, I ask that you carefully consider both Amy and I's request. We are truly coming to you in need, not greed. I invite you to visit my office, hopefully not to pay a speeding ticket, but rather to see the outstanding service that my staff is providing to the citizens of the county. Thank you.
Mr. Shepherd?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Are you asking the same 15%? Do you know what that would cost out of your office by any chance?
$59,000 something.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Biggs?
That was my question, so fine.
Mr. Creed? Ms. Perkins? Mr. King?
Have you got a figure of what your lowest clerk makes compared to the
What she
step?
makes,
Right.
it's in the packet.
So big.
It's the last
20.
page, Todd.
28.
Is that
Yes.
for all of them?
That's
All-
the
all your
lowest paid
clerks.
employee I have. There's 3 at that rate.
Do you have something about the highest one?
It's in there.
Okay.
That would be my salary clerk.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't see you back there, or I wasn't sure that was you back there. Thank you very much. Is there any action that we want to take at this point in time in regards to based on the presentations? No. All right. Next on the agenda, looks like, is there a motion to go into work session?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mrs. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
And Mr. Chair, first item under work session this evening is a presentation on the fiscal year 2017 preliminary revenue projections and state budget highlights. And Mark Magruder, our budget manager, is going to lead us in that discussion. Mark, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening. My name is Mark Magruder. I'm the county's budget manager. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our preliminary revenue projections for fiscal year 2017. I wanted to give you a little background. We have 2 new board members, so I wanted to give some background detail on our county revenue. County revenue falls into 2 distinct categories: undesignated revenue and designated revenue. The undesignated revenue is unrestricted revenue. That means that those revenues can be used for just about any purpose. Designated revenues, on the other hand, are restricted revenues, meaning that they are earmarked for a specific purpose and can be only used for that purpose. If you look at the county's revenue structure, the lion's share of the county's revenue is undesignated revenue. That makes up about 89% of the total revenue structure. And as a general rule, 3 categories of revenue drive 95% of all of our revenue growth: real estate, personal property, and sales and use tax. The designated portion is about 11%. 10 years ago, the county had an 80-20 split. In other words, 80% of the county's revenue was undesignated and 20% came from designated sources. And so what we've seen is the state has reduced the amount of revenue it provides to the locality. Local revenues are required to supplement that support. I want to give you a big picture of our revenue growth for fiscal year 17. As many of you know, the county decided to begin the process of prorating personal property on January 1, 2016, including an estimated impact of $1 million for changing to proration of personal property. Our undesignated revenue growth is going to be about $3 million for fiscal year 17. And below, I show a breakdown of how much is in each individual category. As you can see, real estate is $1.2 million. Personal property, motor vehicles is $1.3 million. That includes the $1 million that we're estimating for the change to proration. $300,000 is our normal growth pattern. Other current property is around $300,000. Sales and use tax is $200,000. Recordation tax is about $100,000. And then all of our other categories of undesignated revenue are in the negative by about $100,000. So that gives you $3 million total. So what's our revenue growth looking forward? Our current growth pattern is very similar to our prior years. Normal growth and undesignated revenue is in the $1 to $2 million range. Again, for fiscal year 17, the county decided to begin prorating personal property. This change is going to add about $1 million in revenue growth for fiscal year 17. So you take our $2 million that we're receiving as our normal growth pattern and then the proration piece, and you're looking at $3 million in growth. The next slide shows a breakdown of revenue by individual category. And again, here you can see the detail. I'll just point out, you can see the real estate's $1.2 million. Personal property, you see the $1.3 million. And then you see the $200 and some thousand in local sales and use tax. All categories added up, $2.95 million, almost $3 million. talk a little bit about the governor's budget. According to the school system, additional state funding for the schools is $2.3 million. $212,000 is tied to the e-backpack initiative. $430,000 is tied to additional SOQ positions, and the schools are receiving about $1.7 million for general school operational needs. Additional state funding to annualize a 2% raise for the constitutional officers in fiscal year 16 is going to add about $11,000 to our revenue base going into 17. Talk about our next steps. We're in the process of reviewing our budget request for the fiscal year. On February 8th, we'll have the presentation of the proposed school budget. On March 7th, we'll have the presentation of the county's proposed budget. On March 21, you're scheduled to establish an advertised tax rate and budget. April 7th, we plan to hold a public hearing on the tax rate and the budget. And then on April 18th, we plan to adopt the budget and the tax rate. At this point concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. King? No. Ms. Perkins?
Not at the moment.
Mr. Creed? Karen?
Just, a reminder that that's governor's proposed budget doesn't mean what's going to come out of the General Assembly, correct?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Mott? Mr. Shepherd?
I don't have anything.
Mark, when you talk about analyzing budget requests, you're talking about from all the different departments, and similar to what the General District Court just made a request of it. We've had in regards for the Center and interviewing children in cases, those are all be taken into consideration at that point in time?
That's correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Mr. Chair and board members, the next item under work session is a presentation from the treasurer regarding bank fees. This is an issue that the board had asked that there be some follow-up on at a meeting prior to the end of the year, and I believe Mr. Shelton's here this evening. Richard, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
On the presentation, I wanted exactly short, be frank with you, speak about the budget. The 2015-2016 budget was proposed $18,000 in addition to the cost for the increase in bank fees. Based on the county's new banking services contract with First Union, the county is required to pay for several banking fees that were previously complimentary under the old contract with Stellar One Bank. These fees were not finalized before the adoption of the budget for 15-16, and the Treasurer's Office does not have the base budget to cover these expenses. Therefore, the additional for the FY16 is requested. And so that's, y'all asked me to come tonight to sort of explain about these funds. For the first 10 years I was treasurer, First National Bank, then Stellar One, gave us about everything we wanted without fees. As you all know, with the drop in interest rates, banks now charge for basically everything they do. For the fiscal year 2015-16 to this point, as of January 21st of 2016, we have used out of our budget, the treasurer's budget of $10,482 to pay for these fees. When we entered the agreement May 12th of 2014, we knew that there would be fees that would be associated with bank services. At that time, we did not know, neither did the bank know what these fees totally would be. We our decision to choose a bank for in 2014 for the next couple years, we only had one bank that made a proposal to our RFP, and that was Union First, whom we went with. Over the years, the amount that we hold in our general fund account, now it's roughly 70 million at this point. Banks are not interested in our cash flow. So because they're not interested in our cash flow, they're going to offer us less when it comes to proposals. Since we did not have any other bids roughly 2 years ago, my thought is to continue with Union First. We're established with them. If we go out and get other RFPs, the banking institutes may respond or they may not. Union may realize that what they are offering us now, they may up their fees, which we have the right to accept or to reject under our present contract. Since we had no other bids 2 years ago, I truly don't believe we'll get any more bids if we put it out or send out an RFP at this time. I did have a list of all the different things that the Union Bank actually charges us for. It was estimated that the fees that we have to pay is roughly $2,150 per month. But they also give us interest at 0.5% interest on our general funds. I went back and did a little comparison. For 2013, when basically we were still into Stellar 1, they gave us everything we asked for. We received in interest for the calendar year 2013, $202,202. In 2014, with paying for these fees, we received $206,000 in interest from Union Bank, and in 2015, interest received from Union Bank was $242,000.
Mr. Treasurer, what was the balances, though, in regards to that?
Well, the balances would vary. I didn't bring that. I did not know what you actually wanted.
And I apologize for interrupting you, but to me, I understand you're talking about interest but that's going to dictate directly on what our balances are.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. So, of course, I have no control on the spending and what we, of course, my job is to collect, and which I feel not only I, but my staff, we do an excellent job there. What was it that you actually needed from me or wanted to ask questions this evening?
I know you're brand new, so Mr. Shepard, but I'll start with you and Ms. DeMonta next. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask the Treasurer about the $18,000 bank fees at this time? Putting you on the spot on your second meeting.
I don't really have any questions at this time.
April, do you have any questions?
So the estimate on what we're paying every month in bank fees is $2,150?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So $2,150, that would be $25,800 a year in fees that
we're not for sure what it is. As of from July 1st of 2015 till right now, January 2016, we have spent out $10,000. the 18,000, the 2,000, 2,100 per month was an estimate, depending on how many services and what we used to the bank. It's no way to avoid that. We do have a contract with the bank that was signed by me, Mr. Meadows, and Marty, and actually reviewed our contract. So
these are new expenses to your office that you didn't incur before because of a more favorable contract, but this time just favorable contracts weren't to be had.
Right. The old Stella One First National Bank, they basically gave us anything we ever asked for, and which was tremendous for 10 years. I've talked to other treasurers over, of course, the past 12 years been treasurer, and that's unbelievable that a bank would do that for Montgomery County. So we had a whole lot to be thankful for, and of course,
party has ended.
will make money from the cash flow that we generate.
Okay, what exactly are these fees? Like, can you tell us what they are?
Okay, I've got a list. I didn't make y'all a list of this, but we use, used to be called Remit Plus. Every time we scan checks to deposit them automatically, that we don't have to take these checks to the bank to be deposited. That's a fee. That's in this. They charge us a base fee each month of $365. A lot of things in there, like stop payments. Many times we don't use that. They estimated that at $150 a month. One of the U.S. demand items, roughly volume of 5,000 items per month, is $560. They have checks and debits paid. It's just a variety of things that the service that are rendered. I didn't know if y'all had this or not. I should have made copies and brought it to you. Just, I'll look at it, and it's all this is estimated cost. But like I said, we're under contract to pay them whatever it is. It was one thing that said that our target goal in the bank, basically the break even on these expenses, were roughly $5,700,000, but that's easily met, of course, with our general funds account.
Maybe you could send that later on, that piece of paper that you have?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we'll
Thank
do
you.
that.
Thank
Just
you.
email it to you, give it to
Or
Vicki.
either way.
I can send it to you too.
And what did you say, how long does this contract last that we're in now?
Well, we actually have a 10-year contract. For the first 2 years, we accepted the contract, and then it's renewable on 1-year increments for the next 8. So it's actually a 10-year contract.
Thank you.
Ms. Biggs, are you done?
Uh-huh.
Mr. Creed?
Well, she kind of took away some of what I was going to ask, but are you? And I guess you're under. You just said you were, so I guess you're under contract as of right now.
Yes, we are.
And the reason for being under the contract right now is because you couldn't get somebody to hold your money 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, of course, we put our RFP out. Seemed like we had several banks interested. We met after we asked for no fees, everything basically free. We asked for it. We were used to asking for everything at no cost. And of course, they already had their RFP. They knew what we were asking. It seemed like it scared them all off. Several banks because of the volume of dollars that we have. At that time, like $40+ million, banks just can't take and turn the money and make money off of our money like they once did in 2008 when the banking industry collapsed and the building of new homes. They just can't make money off of the county's money.
Does that not work in both fashions? If they're going to give it to you now, and if this bank says, okay, we're going to go up on this, have you got something going up on this?
Well, I mean, they could go up on us. We have right to accept their contract or not. We both have to sign on that. I don't have any indicators as of today that that's going to change any. Life is full of surprises. Make it a surprise tomorrow.
Okay, if you got a lease, or not a lease, it wouldn't be a lease in what we're doing. If you were to shop around yourself and get the best deal that you could on whatever millions of dollars you got, would you be willing to get loose from
well,
the other?
Look at that. But the other banks in the past are basically too small banks to handle our kind of money. The Union is a big conglomerate of banks, one of the strongest banks in Virginia, and they can move the money around and make money. I've talked to several other banks, just one-on-one, nothing formal, and what they've told us, they either can't do the work we need with their technology that they have in place now, and or they can't use our money. It's too much money for one bank, because with all the funds in the bank, they have to keep so much on reserve. It has to be insured, and they have tremendous costs, whatever those costs might be, that banks 2 years ago were not interested. I don't feel that they'd be interested today. We also have our systems in place. We know they work. Union Bank works well with us, and I like to keep it as we have it, unless we had some unexpected things that Union came back with us and said these would be our costs this year.
No, I don't have any right now.
Ms. Burton. Sorry. Ms. Burton.
No, I think I understand what you've said thus far. So you want us, you're projecting that your costs are going to be $18,000. Is that correct? In fees or what?
We estimated $18,000. I think in 2014-15 it's roughly $15,000. But we just don't know. It is something that has to be honored. It's actually going to be paid out with these funds to pay us back our $10,000 and the remainder put into finance and let finance pay these monthly fees when they call for them out of the remainder.
Annette, do you have any other questions?
No,
Mr. King?
Just got a couple. Now you said 2150 is an estimate. It could go up.
Yeah, I know. It's like people added up. Yes, it's much more. But all these are estimates. A lot of these things we we haven't used a lot of them for months. They gave us an estimated scale.
So that's nothing that they just, like $150 stop payment fee. They don't charge you that unless you use it.
Well, right, that would be $15 per stop payment, which would be $10 a month.
Right.
And I don't know we've ever used 10 a month. So all these, you bring down the cost.
Now, and you talk to other treasurers, is this about the same thing they're paying?
Roughly, and some are even paying more than we are. But there's different, anytime we discuss things, you're looking at smaller localities, same size localities, and larger localities.
Well, like Roanoke County.
Variety.
Like Roanoke County, I mean, they're pretty much like we are.
Oh yeah, they paid fees out the wazoo for years. If you talk to Evelyn Powers, the treasurer of the city of Roanoke, or Kevin Hutchison, the county treasurer, he doesn't understand how we've gotten by all these years.
Richard, a few things in regards. I was on the board 2 years ago when the RFP. Is it fair to say that RFP, when the time it came back, it was really close? We had to make a decision on at that point in time. Is that correct?
Well, we did at the time. There are a lot of changes in the banking.
Right. But I'm correct. It was right at the end of the time period. We had to make a decision at that point in time for 2 years, and we were locked into it. But we're free to get out of that contract as of August of this year, correct?
As of May of this year.
Okay. Why don't we? Have you thought about getting some RFPs out there to take a look to see if we can?
We can do it. We don't have to accept any of the RFPs. We can see what might come back. I mean, if we have a good thing, my thought is, why try to fix it when it's not broke?
We just had an increase of $18,000 in bank fees, though.
We have for 2 years, and you knew that when you signed the contract 2 years ago.
All right, but this wasn't factored in your budget a year ago, correct? So you added it, and this is an additional request that wasn't in your budget this past year.
It's being taken out of our budget, but the budget has actually been put in a request to add the $18,000 to.
That's because these fees are in addition to what you had budgeted for, correct?
Not additional, just to pay.
So you have this in your budget already.
All right, the $10,000 we paid so far has come out of the treasurer's budget.
I understand that. And so you're asking for an additional $18,000. And my point is, if it is part of your budget, then you don't need the $18,000. If it wasn't part of your budget, this is an increase in above what was budgeted for.
I'm just asking to be reimbursed the $10,482 that's being taken out of our budget to pay the fees out of the treasurer's working budget. That's actually a county expense. It's not a treasurer expense. We are not making anything off the general fund.
I'm not saying that the treasurer's making money, but I'm saying, was this not factored into your budget?
This was not factored for us to
so
pay it
this
from
is
our
an
budget.
addition, $18,000 addition that they've increased their bank fees.
No, they have not increased it. This is estimated what it would cost. I'm not understanding you, and I don't think you're understanding me.
Because it's hard for me to get my head around. If you have a budgeted amount, you plan your budget, you submit your budget, it comes through the budget process just like we're getting ready to go through now.
Right.
Now you have an additional request because this is in addition to the money that we budgeted for you last year, or we voted on it last year, and that $18,000 is an addition. And so that means either one, it wasn't budgeted for, or two, they've increased the fees. My question is, which one is it?
It's not supposed to come out of our budget.
All right, so it wasn't budgeted for in your budget.
Excuse me, Mr. Tucker, a moment. All right, I don't know if I could ask finance that question.
It's not in its budget.
It's supposed to be that the first year they put the money in our budget to pay the expense. Now it's a new account and it's going to be taken away out of what's taken out of our budget and paid out of finance. How that works, although I'm the treasurer, I don't understand the process. No one to this point has even explained it to me. Can you help
How
me,
much did they
Angie, with this point right here.
Yes.
Thank you, Angie.
Don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, it's fine. So in May of 14, that's when we entered into this new contract, so that we had 2 months worth of expense for May and June of 14.
Okay.
So the budget for 15 was already set. We couldn't go back at that point and ask for more money to be put in the budget to cover the fees. So a supplemental appropriation was done during the year because there was not sufficient funds in the treasurer's budget because they had no funds in there before to pay for fees because we had no fees.
Okay.
But the fees did increase. Last year we paid just over $16,000 for this, for all of fiscal year 15.
So the fees are going up.
Yes, because they used to be zero, now they're $16,000 or $18,000. They went up. And the money has been set aside in special contingencies. We didn't put it in the treasurer's budget because we didn't know if he might go out for proposal for another contract.
Okay.
Because he could have done that last May.
And Angie, I don't know if this is a fair question, and forgive me for asking it. If it's not, please feel free to say no thank you. To me, it's hard for me to get my head around. If we got $70 million, usually that's the kind of account a lot of the big banks would really like to have. I'm used to my parents running a business, and they have had bankers at their office begging for their business and asking for their accounts and taking them out to dinner and doing those type of things. So their accounts are much smaller than $70 million. I don't understand why. Am I right when there was a pretty close timeline with the RFP?
Yes, there was a close timeline, and I have the details of that. I can get that to you if you want that. The local smaller banks don't have capacity for our funds. What they said, which Richard explained, was they can't loan that much money, so they don't want it.
There's federal requirements on them.
And another issue with these funds are that they have to be collateralized, which means that they have to have a different kind of backing. The bank has to secure those funds a different way because they're public money with treasury bills or something. I don't know the details of that, but it's more for them to have to do. So the local banks, some of the smaller local banks said, we would have loved to have your business, but we can't take it, it's too much. None of the larger banks, like the national banks or larger banks, proposed. I talked to Courtney Rogers with Davenport about that, about why did he think none of them proposed, and he said it could be because the RFP that was issued said that we did not want to have to pay fees. And they knew that they couldn't propose on that, and they didn't know whether or not a local bank was willing to continue to offer no fees. So he felt like that was the reason that maybe none of the larger banks.
And just to clarify, an RFP, you can negotiate. Just because a bank simply says your fees are going to be $18,000 doesn't mean you can't go back and say, well, let's make them $9,000, correct?
Yes, we tried.
Okay.
We did try with that. But I don't know what would happen if we issued another RFP, whether or not some of those larger banks would propose this time. The market has changed since then, too.
Do you think that we would have enough time? And I'm sorry, I was trying to think 2 years ago when I was thinking it was August instead of May. As far as, do you think that we would have enough time in the 5 months to be able to get an RFP out just to see if there's some banks who want our business?
It would be tight to get them back, but we could do that and then continue month to month with Union. Or as Richard said, if we don't like any of the proposals, we don't have to go with them. We can keep just what we have. We don't have to worry.
Thank you very much.
And you also can put them in 2 baskets or 3 baskets or 4 baskets rather than having it all sitting over here in one big tube.
Right.
Does that make it more difficult for the staff when we have 3 or 4 banks that we're dealing with, though? Do you see what I'm saying? If we start dividing up $70 million into $10 million here, $10 million here, $50 million here, does that make it difficult, more labor intensive for our staff?
Richard's office would be responsible with dividing that up, and one thing that we would have to work with him on would be making sure that we had enough cash flow in the main account, because as we talk about with you guys all the time, you know, we get 2 big tax payments a year, and then we're using that cash throughout the year. So we'd have to make sure that was structured properly, that we could manage that.
And would it create kind of a coding for the employees that are handling it? Would they have to code every payment that comes in and make sure it's being allocated correctly to the right accounts? If there are multiple accounts?
My opinion of how that would work would be that we would have one bank account that we paid all the bills out of, and then we would have these other pots and would take money out of those pots and put it into the main account, not the day-to-day choosing which account to pay out of. But that's it would be Richard's decision about that. That would just be my suggestion.
And I know Angie wasn't up here. There's some other questions that any board members have.
Yeah.
Mary?
I want to know, okay, I'm confused about, he's saying that he paid $10,000 out of his budget, but you're saying that we had the money in a fund to pay it. So why, I'm confused where the money is.
Okay.
Like, is he going to be reimbursed out of this money that we set aside, or what happened?
It's in special contingencies, which we put money in there in the budget if we don't know exactly how much things are going to cost, or if we're not sure that they're going to happen, but we know there's the potential for them to happen. And then the board has to take action to move them into the appropriate place. He has covered that out of his budget to date, just because we're only halfway through the year. That's why he's had enough to keep his budget intact and not overspend. If we continue on throughout the year and he doesn't get another appropriation, he will overspend his budget.
So is he getting the money then back from that?
You would have to take action for that to happen.
So that's what he's asking us to do, but we have the money available for him.
Contingencies,
okay,
yes.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Any, I'm sorry, Ms. Perkins, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I wasn't trying to.
You know, how much money did he put into this budget for fees if we knew we were going to have to pay fees?
I can't remember if the treasurer's office submitted it or if we in finance estimated what the fees were going to be based on what had happened so far. But there was a request made and funds were included in special contingencies, not in his individual department.
Okay. So his department budget has no money in it for fees.
That's right, because 2 years ago was the first time we had to pay any fees, so he didn't have any money before.
And so at this point, he has spent $10,000 for fees that he didn't have in his budget.
And Ms. Perkins, what's brought this to the board's attention, if you recall, is there was a discussion back before the end of the year about did the board want to appropriate money from special contingencies to the treasurer's budget to cover that? And then the question was raised, well, can we look at while we're paying the fees and is there an opportunity not to pay the fees? And that was the issue related to the issuance of an RFP, and that's why the treasurer's here.
Okay. So you need actually, to this point, $10,000 from special contingencies.
18 for the whole year.
We need to be reimbursed $10,400 of that to the treasurer's budget.
We need a total of 18 is the request. 18.
Okay.
That'll get us through the year.
Chris, you mentioned about 70 million. We don't always have 70 million. Looks like to me sort of an all-time high. And to go out, but you're looking at 40, 50 million dollars. That's a lot of money for a small hometown bank. And when we send out our RFPs, one of the requirements are they have to do business within Montgomery County. And some of them are, although they're banks, say like SunTrust, they're not interested in dealing with us.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. Next item on the work session is constitutional officers under Virginia law, and Marty McMahon is going to provide us some information in regards to that, as well as some additional information regarding the legal proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the board requested a briefing on two things. One, they wanted a briefing on the removal of public officers from office.
If you could move your mic a little bit closer, I think there's some folks that have some...
Closer. Can't hear you.
Is that okay?
Better. I saw some people straining in the back to hear you.
I apologize. I'll start over. The board requested a briefing on two things. One, they wanted a briefing on the removal of public officers from office, the statute in Virginia that applies to that. And you also wanted a briefing on what I'd say the legal relationship between constitutional officers and local governing bodies. Constitutional officers are both in counties and cities, and so the rule would apply What I'm talking about would apply to both cities and counties equally across the board. Under section 24.2, 230 et sec, which runs, I believe, through 238, which is Article 7 in that section, there's a statute in Virginia that's, in fact, it's entitled Removal of Public Officers from Office. Virginia is somewhat unique from most other states in the Union in that we have what's called, what I call a recall by trial, instead of a recall by election. In most states, petition drive is done to recall somebody from office. If they meet the petition requirements, then an election is held to determine whether that person will remain in office. In Virginia, it's different. If you comply with the petition requirements, then a trial is held at the circuit court level, and that trial is to determine whether the officer should be removed for cause, and those cause reasons for cause are included in the statute. First off, what the statute says is upon a petition, the circuit court may remove from office any elected officer or officer appointed to fill an elected office within the jurisdiction of that court. And that's applicable both to appointed Commonwealth, constitutional, or local officers. And that would be within the jurisdiction of that circuit court. The statute also requires that the petition has to be signed by the number of registered voters who reside within that jurisdiction of the office that the officer that's being requested to be removed, that's equal to 10% of the total number of votes cast at the last election for that particular office. And then the statute goes on to say the reasons why for removal. There's 3 sections that the statute lists. The first section talks about neglect of duty, misuse of office, or incompetence in performance of duties when any one of those 3 has what the statute says a material adverse effect upon the conduct of the office. And then the second listed reasons for someone may be removed is a misdemeanor conviction for various drug offenses. And then the third section is a conviction of a hate crime when that conviction has a material adverse effect upon the conduct of such office. So any one of those 3 reasons, a petition can be brought for removal. The statute also includes procedural requirements. The petition is required to state with reasonable accuracy in detail the grounds or reasons for removal. And those grounds and reasons for removal go back to what I just stated. They have to contain either some type of allegation of neglect of duty, misuse of office, or incompetence in office with a material adverse impact due to one of those 3, or all 3, or 2 of those 3, or an allegation that the officer has been convicted of a misdemeanor drug offense or a hate crime. And the person who brings the petition, which I'll call petitioner, they're required to sign the petition, and they sign under the penalty of perjury. Now, the perjury requirement only applies, at least in my opinion, to the petitioner who's signing the petition, and it doesn't apply to the registered voters that are required to then sign the petition equal to 10% of those who voted in that office.
All right. Now, Marty, I read in the Roanoke Times, I guess it was last week, in regards to the allegations that people who were signing the petition could be charged with perjury. So if Joe Smith signs the petition, he can't be charged with perjury. But if Chris Tuck is the petitioner, then I could be charged with perjury, but not the citizens who are signing it. Is that correct?
That's how I read the statute, and there's a couple reasons for that. I think the language actually says the petition shall be signed by a person or persons making it under penalties of perjury. So that when it says person, it's talking about it could be one or multiple persons, which makes no sense when you talk about registered voters, because it's got to be 10% of the last election. And so that would never be with one person, it would be many. And then more importantly, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, is that the statute actually grants immunity to a certain extent to to anyone who signs the petition as a registered voter or circulates the petition trying to get people to sign the petition. And so it would make no sense that registered voters who sign a petition would do it under penalty of perjury. Now, there's other rules involved in petitions that don't come under this statute. Like if you're doing a petition drive that people sign that may involve different rules of signing, which I'm not talking about at this point. So it's my opinion the perjury would only apply to the petitioner who brought the petition itself. And that would be if within the petition they knowingly included false accusations, knowing that those were false, then they'd be open to a possible perjury charge at that point.
Okay.
Any questions on that? Is that clear? If anyone has any questions or if I'm not clear, please interrupt or feel free to.
So the petitioner would have to know the allegations were false?
You have to knowingly know that those were false.
Okay.
Correct, to make those. That's true. Once the petitioner reaches the number of signatures required, which is 10% of the last election for that particular office, then the petition is filed with the court. And when the court receives that, then the court's required to issue what the statute says is a rule, which is basically commanding or requiring the officer that's subject to the petition to show cause why that officer should not be removed from office. And basically it's just giving that officer due process or notice that the petition's been filed. The rule, within the rule, it's required, at least in general terms, to include the cause or causes for such removal. It's required to include a copy of the petition that was filed. And then the rule is required, shall be returnable in not less than 5 days, no more than 10 days. And what that means in legal jargon is that after 5 days of being served, the officer being served with that rule, or no more than 10, is that it's returnable, meaning that it could be a trial date within that 5 to 10 day period. However, there's language in the statute that says the parties could agree to a continuance if needed for good cause. And my guess is that that would probably be granted. And the good cause would be preparation, or maybe witnesses can't get there within the 10. And there's a number of reasons why it would, in most cases, be continued. However, if it's not continued, the statute even says that it takes precedence over all other cases on the docket. So it could be a speedy trial within 10 days, or it could be much later than that if needed. The way the proceeding works is the Commonwealth's made a party to the proceeding. The county or city of the area where the local constitutional officer works or resides or is elected is not a party. So the county and city is not a party to the proceedings, but the Commonwealth is. And the Commonwealth would be represented by the Commonwealth attorney. In most cases, I would think the local Commonwealth attorney would recuse himself or herself, obviously because it probably had some type of dealings with the constitutional officer. And a constitutional law, a Commonwealth attorney would be brought in from an outside jurisdiction. Same thing with probably a local judge probably would hear it as well for the same reasons, which is common in these I would think in these types of cases. The burden's on the Commonwealth, and the burden it's a tough burden. They have to prove by clear and convincing evidence that the officer is guilty of the statutory grounds for removal that are alleged. Remember that they got to show misuse of office. They have to show neglect of duty or incompetence in office, and then also show an adverse impact because of those allegations or by proving those allegations. The proceedings are not criminal in nature. They're primarily what the courts that have reviewed these type of proceedings have labeled them as public in nature. Not a criminal case, not a civil case, however, but just something that's public in nature. However, it's the Commonwealth who's the governing body that's involved in this, not the county or city. Once the petition's filed and the court sets a trial, the court has the discretion to suspend the officer who's subject to the trial from office during the pending trial. And go ahead and appoint someone within that office to go ahead and serve in that capacity during the pendency of the trial or any appeal of that trial. As I stated, the Commonwealth Attorney represents the Commonwealth needs. It could be a trial by jury or bench at the request of the petitioner, the respondent, which is the officer. Either party can appeal to the Supreme Court of Virginia. Whichever party loses, the other one can appeal if they so choose. If a judicial proceeding is held and is dismissed in favor of the respondent, who's the officer, the court has in its discretion, it may require the state agency or political subdivision, that's the language it states in the statute, to provide the respondent with court costs or reasonable attorney fees or both. So the circuit court's not required to order those. However, they have that discretion to require either the state agency or political subdivision in which the respondent serves to pay those costs. And lastly, in dealing with the statute, the immunity section, it states that no person who signs the petition or circulates the petition shall be liable for any of those costs, including attorney's fees associated with the removal proceedings conducted pursuant to the petition, or shall have sanctions or have the court issue any sanctions that are pursuant to 801-271.1, which is a statute dealing with court actions where a court finds that the parties have not acted in good faith. So there is immunity given to those who sign. So any questions on the statute?
So if I'm hearing correctly, actually, Mary, go ahead.
This goes back to the people signing the petition, and then it goes to, are the signatures ever verified as to being registered voters by the registrar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because there's a number they got to reach, and the number has to be registered voters in Montgomery County or whatever county have the recall.
I started on this side. April, did you have any questions?
Just to further clarify, the author of the petition, the person who wrote, the petitioner, is the only person then that can be held responsible under perjury statute.
I think the statute talks about that when they sign, they're signing under the penalty of perjury. Correct.
Okay.
Carol?
I don't.
Mr. Creed?
I'm good.
Okay. And I know that takes care of the one section. I want to make sure to clarify. The Board of Supervisors is not involved with the petition. I know we've gotten, or a lot of us have gotten emails in regards to that. The Board of Supervisors has nothing to do with that petition.
No,
the Commonwealth's attorney, and if she recuses herself, then another Commonwealth's attorney would be brought in, but the board would not be taking that action one way or the other.
Correct. The locality, either the city or county, and its governing body would not be involved in the proceedings. The Commonwealth is involved once the petition is accepted by the court, and the Commonwealth then would represent, in essence, the petitioners who are bringing the action, and the voters who have signed it, I guess, the registered voters who have signed that petition.
But our county could be responsible for legal fees.
Correct. Yeah, it's not clear whether, because it states the state agency or political subdivision, but yeah, there's that liability or exposure, yes. And it's at the discretion of the court.
And I know there's the second prong in regard to the constitutional officers and regard.
And some of this board will know, and others in the audience may know. But constitutional officers, as the name suggests, are established under the Constitution of Virginia. In particular, it's Article 7, Section 4. It states that there shall mandatory be elected by the qualified voters a treasurer, sheriff, Commonwealth attorney, commissioner of revenue, and a clerk of the court where deeds are recorded. And that's the circuit court. And that requirement is in both cities and counties. Now there's and then it goes on to state that the duties and compensation of such officers are determined by the General Assembly by statute. And so the Constitution has delegated to the General Assembly the right and the duty to go ahead and set the duties for those officers and set the compensation for those officers. And not just the officers, but their staff as well. And funding for the office itself. The most important thing, I think, that's going to be stated tonight is that constitutional officers are not, and their staff are not county employees, they're not city employees where they work, but but they're independent of both the state and local government. Virginia is very unique in their governmental setup. Constitutional officers are separate legal entities within themselves. And so their employees or the officers are not county employees. So that means the local governing body has no responsibility or liability for the actions of any constitutional officer. Now it goes to the flip side is the locality, they have no control or say over the actions of those officers. So it goes both ways, where you don't have any liability for what they do, but at the same time, the governing body for the city or county does not have the authority to tell those constitutional officers what to do. The constitutional officers have the right to set up their own staffs. They have the power to organize their offices, appoint such deputies, assistants, and other individuals that are authorized by law. They're allowed to hire and fire their own employees. The hiring and firing, though, is subject to, the only thing that's subject to, Virginia is an at-will state, and so they can at-will hire and fire their employees, and local governing body has no say in that. However, constitutional officers, like any other employer, cannot hire and fire and do that in a way that violates any constitutional protected rights. So the employees have that, but at the same time, they do not have grievance rights. Like county employees do, or some state employees do, and so they are somewhat different in that. Funding for constitutional officers. As I stated, the Constitution has delegated that authority to the General Assembly, and what the General Assembly has set up is what's called the Compensation Board. And the Compensation Board is the board, it's a state statute that sets up this board, and that's the board that sets up or establishes the salaries, expenses, and budgets for all the constitutional officers. It's somewhat complicated. I'd look to Carol to talk about how they actually do it, but it's a state formula that's established. It sets not only the salary for the officer, his or herself, but also her staff, and establishes how many offices they can have within a particular jurisdiction. Obviously, bigger jurisdictions get more paid staff through the compensation board than smaller jurisdictions, and they also establish how much funding that they're going to get through that compensation board. The compensation board sets a minimum, the salary that they establish for the officer and the employees of that office is the minimum amount that must be paid by the locality. The locality has no discretion in paying them any less. And so what happens is, if the compensation board establishes salary as X, then the board, when the money comes through the county or the city, then they pay that employee X. And what happens is the localities are then reimbursed by the compensation board as the fiscal year goes on. And so it's, in essence, as Carol calls it, a revenue stream where you get money from the compensation board to help the localities offset those costs. Now, localities have other costs with constitutional officers. Localities are required to provide office space, courthouse space for the Commonwealth Attorney and the Circuit Court who are in that office, in that building. We're also required to provide office space for the Treasurer and the Commissioner of Revenue. We're also required to provide furniture, supplies, equipment, pay utilities. All that's required to be paid by the locality for the constitutional officers. And that's all of the local costs. So it's from local tax dollars that pays for that. The other thing that localities have the authority to do, aren't required to do, they have discretion, is that they can what's called supplement the salaries that are established by the compensation board. And that's by code section. It says it empowers the local governing body in its discretion to elect to supplement the compensation of the constitutional officer or any of their deputies or employees above that salary established by the comp board. The Board of Supervisors currently, in this county, currently supplements all the constitutional officers in Montgomery County that serve Montgomery County. That includes the officers and it includes the staff that work under that office. Now, like I said, is that the locality has the discretion to do that. And it's clear that the governing body is free in future years to increase, decrease, or eliminate such supplement. In fact, the county or city that provides that supplement, they can reduce or eliminate that supplement at any time by action of the local governing body. And so it's completely at the discretion of the governing body if they want to supplement those salaries. And in fact, there's been language in some of the cases that says the extent to which the locality wishes to maintain parity between salaries paid to constitutional officers and their staff and county employees is a matter of the discretion of the locality. So the board can decide, hey, we think the employees of constitutional officers should be paid at a higher amount for various reasons why, and include the officer in that. Or they cannot include the officer and just pay the staff. The statute says that they can supplement either the officer or any of his deputies. So you don't have to do one, you have to do all or none. You can do one or the other or all. It's up to you. But it's at the complete discretion of the governing body, and that and you can remove that at any time. And lastly, I'll say this in there, see if you have any questions. Currently, we have what's called memorandum of understandings with all the constitutional officers, the county does, and these were established over time. I'm not sure when we first established these, maybe in the early 2000s, but there were various reasons for that. We'll let Craig talk about that if you want to hear that. But we have MOUs with constitutional officers where basically that provides the constitutional officers and their staff an opportunity to elect to participate in the county's personnel policies, and in return that officer agrees to follow those policies as far as practicable. Now it's very clear, the constitutional officers have made it clear, and it's clear in the MOU, that in no way do they waive their constitutional right, really, to hire and fire any of their employees. So they don't come under Craig like any other county employee would, or under the board of supervisors like the 2 appointed or 3 appointed employees do currently. So they're not waiving that. However, the MOU states that the fringe benefits and future pay and classification is going to be set by the board, and with the intent to at least pay that minimum salary level that's established by the comp board. So, I mean, we have a requirement to do that. To pay them anything more is at your discretion and can be decreased or increased or removed back down to the minimum level at any point that the board so chooses. But you have to take an action to do that.
In regards, is some of that pay referred to as merit pay? For the constitutional officers, I'm not interested in regards to or asking about the deputy or the deputy clerk or the clerk who's working in the treasurer's office, but the actual constitutional officers. Is some of that supplement that we're providing in their salaries?
I think what you're talking about is when they agreed to enter in the MOU, come on the county compensation plan. Within that plan, the board approves in various years a % increase, merit increase for county employees if they meet certain criteria. And that's across the board if they meet that criteria. It's 2%, 3%, depending on the year that this board approves within that budget year. Now, when the constitutional officers agree to go on our comp plan, the officers and their employees then come under that 2%, 3%, whatever the % merit increase. So there is some merit increase with that. And that applies to constitutional officers as well as their staff, if that makes sense. So not all the supplemental income is necessarily merit, but there is some in there that would be merit.
A portion, right?
Yeah.
In regards to merit pay at constitutional officers, if I'm a deputy clerk, then that merit pay, the constitutional officer, or if I'm in the Commonwealth Attorney's office, the Commonwealth Attorney would then approve or say, hey, Chris is doing a great job, he deserves merit pay.
Correct.
Who looks at the constitutional officers in regards to their merit pay?
No.
There's no review of them.
No.
I think I've been picking on Daryl, and I'm going to start down on this end. Mr. King, do you have any questions, Tom?
Well, to follow up on Chris's question, would that be our job to look into the constitutional officers and make sure?
That's a tough question. I think what this board has the authority to look at is whether you want to provide supplemental income to those offices.
And so now I have to kind of follow up on that. In regards to that, could we say take away from the Commonwealth Attorney's Office $6,000 and leave her employees alone, not touch them?
You can do that.
And not touch the other constitutional officers for that matter, just one.
I think you can do that, yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? Ms. Perkins?
Well, there are some, but right now I'm not. We have a memo of understanding, and it is supplemental pay, and they are on our county compensation pay, right?
Well, the MU doesn't actually state supplemental pay. What it says is that they'll be on the county's comp plan. And on that plan, the salaries for the officer and those employees are higher than what's required by the compensation board. And so, and the board agrees to pay those while they're on that comp class. But that doesn't mean the board, if it was going to change that opinion, then you would remove them from that plan, or you would reduce the amount that salary is established on that plan.
Okay, so we establish what the officer gets and then what is divided among the employees?
No, not divided. The salary, there's actually salaries for, like Deputy Clerk 1, there's a salary for that. Deputy Clerk 2.
Okay. Thank you.
Did that spark any other questions amongst the board?
I think Carol, if you want Carol to better describe how that's set up.
You're not seeing the face that she's making behind you.
The only reason I know that is because she was kind of explaining to me. She hasn't kicked me yet, but back in the day when we set up this common class thing, we actually set up these, there was a unified plan, and all of these people were put on there, these positions, including the elected official.
And Mary mentioned it at the last meeting that part of it was a high turnover in deputies and getting them on the pay plan because we were paying to train them. And when Mary was on the board and Nick Rush was on the board, we had a tremendous turnover, and they were being hired away as soon as we got them trained, going to Virginia Tech and working for Daryl when he was a sergeant over there and the like. And so it was a way of being able to retain county employees.
Exactly. The compensation board, when they fund positions, they're not necessarily funding it looking at what the market demand is in the locality.
So what each person gets is really what has been established by whatever the title of the office is.
Are you talking about for the lower employees, not the constitutional officers?
Right.
Yes, that's I understand. There's a pay scale for clerk staff.
Right.
Clerk
staff.
1, deputy.
Right. So that's listed. Everybody knows what it is. It's all.
Yep. And there's a scale.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay. But then there's the pay given to the actual clerk.
The actual constitutional officer,
Or a constitutional officer.
They're on there as well.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
April, was there another question?
Are we going to talk at all about the reappointment process, or what the legal information? I guess can the clerk?
Oh, you're talking about reappointment of their employees?
Yeah. What is that? What happens? What's the I guess what timeline does reappointment happen on, and for what reasons does that happen?
There's been some various court cases at the federal level where employees were not reappointed by a constitutional officer, and the Fourth Circuit's come out and made it pretty clear that there is no what they call property right or right to continue past the term of the constitutional officer. And so, and they're always at will anyway, but when a constitutional officer's term ends, that employee's employment ends, and they don't have necessarily entitled to any right to continue on past that date. In fact, I think it's common that all the constitutional officers re-interview everybody and in essence reappoint them because of that's the way it works with those particular positions. And so there's no due process right, no grievance rights if they're not reappointed. It's up to that constitutional officer whether they want to reappoint them or hire others.
Thank you. Any other questions? Don't want to cut anybody off. Marty, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Is there a motion, one in regards, I guess, a motion to go out of work session?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
I'm still not used to that, but aye.
7 ayes.
The next item on our agenda is public address. And this is our opportunity. And do you need to take a break? Okay. I tell you what, we're going to take, and I'm going to try to live up to this, we're going to come back at 9:15 and start with our public address.
That's fine.
11 minutes.
Folks, the next item on our agenda.
Oh, she'll come.
Okay. Which is easiest? I know, I'm a slave driver. Go ahead. Folks, the next item on our agenda is public address. And this is the opportunity for the board to hear concerns from the citizens. It is not our turn to respond to you. Many times that you have to listen to what we say, but this is the time and opportunity for us to listen to what you have to say. Now, I would ask that each and every one of you give respect to each speaker. You may not agree with what they're saying. I doubt that everybody in this room will agree on everything at any given moment. But I do expect everyone to act like adults. If folks start yelling or shouting while someone else is speaking, I'm going to call that person down. If they won't stop, then I'm going to ask them to leave. If they don't leave voluntarily, we have some deputies who will help them with that. And so I expect folks to act like adults. All right? Now, the first person on our list, and we're going to go through the list, the sign-up sheet first, and then I'm just going to go around, and if there's individuals who are not on the list, I'm going to ask them to raise their hands, and we'll go through the public address. The first name we have is Julie Kimbrough. As you approach, I would ask that you state your name, your address, and so we can be able to have contact information. Many times when citizens have questions, rather than respond to them now, the staff helps us to be able to formulate a response. Ms. Kimbrough?
Julie Kimbrough, 1515 Sherwood Drive, Christiansburg, and I'm a town resident. I just wanted to read, I know I sent this to you all, but I just wanted to express it publicly, so just bear with me. I'm writing to you in support of our current Clerk of Court, Ms. Erica Williams. I cannot remain silent on what I perceive as a witch hunt against an elected official. I cannot believe that citizens are petitioning for Mrs. Williams' dismissal when she is an elected position and she exercised her right by law as a constitutional officer. There are many constitutional officers throughout the state of Virginia who have not renewed the terms of employment of staff under them, whether they are newly elected or re-elected into the position. All phases of government, from the president, governor, and down, do this upon election years and throughout their term. Individuals who seek and obtain employment under such constitutional officers have no guarantee of continued employment, and if they are dismissed, then this should not be a shock to them. My understanding is that all employees of the clerk's office have to submit in writing seeking continuation of their jobs. This is a process in which they were asked to not only do at this election term, but the terms prior to that. Are the citizens petitioning the president of Virginia Tech because coaching staff were not kept on when the new football coach was hired? No. Are they further petitioning other businesses that bring in new owners or managers and staff are relieved of their positions? No. This occurs more frequently than any of us imagine. I've experienced it, my friends have experienced it, my family members have experienced it. Is it upsetting? Absolutely upsetting. No one wants to lose their job in today's times and economy, but it happens. It's business, and that's how things go. It's not an excuse, but it's a constitutional officer's right, and you're not guaranteed a position, whether it's during the year, after an election year, or from day to day, if you're not presenting your job and doing it as you should. Ms. Williams has followed through on all her elected job responsibilities without malice or prejudice. She has not blatantly refused to do her elected job, as has her counterpart in Kentucky, Ms. Kim Davis, who to this day still blatantly refuses to do her job, yet is still an officer after serving time in jail. If anything warrants removal from office, this would be it. Luckily, this is not what we're in. This is not the position that our clerk is in, and we as a county are not in that position. I want to see Montgomery County be in the news for good stories, not be embarrassed because we made the news over a petition for removal of a constitutional officer for doing her job and what she's by law allowed to do. I'm sad that anyone has to lose their job, but petitioning for removal is disturbing at best. The people of the county, even some of the ones petitioning for removal or elected clerk of court, voted in November to re-elect Mrs. Williams, and thus the process of elections should be upheld without prejudice from the citizens because they think that her dismissal of staff is morally wrong. It's not our choice to tell someone what morally they can and cannot do. Once we entertain this type of petition, where do we draw the line? What's to come after this? The constitutional officer has broken no law or oath that she has taken to perform this job. Who's to say anyone that was elected into that position would or would not terminate employees? We don't know that. They can say they wouldn't. We don't know that. That's not the situation here. Also, after reviewing the last meeting online, I'm sad to see that some of the board members visibly show support for this petition when you're supposed to be a bipartisan. No matter what side you fall on, Republican, Independent, Democrat, you're supposed to be able to come together and show support for the county, not for what you believe versus what someone else believes. That's upsetting as a voter. If one were to seriously look into the unjust petitioning, I believe it would be found that the persons in favor of this removal from office either belong to the same church, are acquainted with those removed, or others not hired for positions within the clerk's office, or were opponents of Mrs. Williams at some point in time. How can we look at this seriously and give thought to such a petition when we see the malice and the political party division that it is? Let us not make the news for some people's political, personal, or prejudiced actions towards an elected official, a constitutional officer who has done nothing but ensure her oath to completing her job duties at the best of her ability. In closing, I urge you to see what this really is and allow the elected clerk of court to remain in position. Whether you personally agree with her right by law to dismiss staff working under her or not, you must support the election process and the laws of any constitutional officer to do their work. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Lisa Gardner.
Mr. Chairman, Board, hi, my name is Melissa.
And I didn't say this earlier, don't start our time yet. You have 5 minutes. And okay, thank you.
My name is Melissa. I go by Lisa Gardner, 11 Flieger Street in Christiansburg, Virginia. I think the lady before me said everything that I wanted to say and that I had concerns about. I did not prepare a speech, but I did want to come here trying to be as neutral and fair as possible. I swing both parties. I consider myself an independent person. I don't go party line on anything or anybody. Ms. Williams is the duly elected person for this position. The law, Mr. Mahan did a great job explaining what her rights are and what the laws say. I think it's something that we should not be getting in the middle of. I do want to speak in favor of a couple of the employees, Mr. Alan Worrell and Diana Vaught. These people I've known for many years. They are great employees. They have worked there. However, at-will employees accept the job position knowing the risk of losing the job any day for any reason. So I think it's just a dangerous precedent that we're setting here. It is sort of, as I say, it seems like a witch hunt against Erica Williams in particular. If it would have been somebody else in a different position or a different party, things probably have been different. I also believe that we should not bring our personal relationships as far as our church or family members into politics. So I'm asking the board to just remain as neutral as possible. Say, it's not our business. What's done is done. The people have spoken, and to the victor goes the spoils. Thank you.
And I may mispronounce this name, but it's Sarah Bohn, B-O-H-N. And if I mispronounced your name, I apologize to you.
My name is Sarah Bohn. My address is 2360 Woodland Hills Drive, Blacksburg, and I've loved living and working in Montgomery County for the last 22 years. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, Chair Tuck and fellow board members, and thank you for all that you do for our county. Many people know me as an active citizen of Montgomery County. I have been asked to speak on behalf of many of the people who support Ms. Erica Williams as clerk of court in light of the circulating petition to discredit her and the proposal for re-election. But first, I want to recognize the impetus for this petition and why I'm speaking to you today. Several staff were let go from the clerk's office. This is quite disheartening and very unfortunate for all the people affected. None of this is easy for either side. I beg to say that in most instances when people are let go, yes, they usually are very upset and feel inappropriately dismissed. But most of the time they move on to the best of their ability. And in many cases, people find better opportunities. Yes, it may be difficult for some time, but our great country and Commonwealth provides social services during tough times like these, with unemployment insurance and COBRA to continue health insurances. We don't believe that Ms. Williams was willy-nilly in making her decisions. It is understood that she worked with the Human Resources Department of the county to make sure she worked within the rules and requirements of the termination process. If anything, the personnel policies, including the termination processes, should be changed. Ms. Williams followed the rules. And having a differing opinion or being let go does not justify the defamation the people who support the petition have done. Let's face it, none of us know all of the reasons why these people were let go, or all the things highlighted in the petition. When all is said and done, if necessary, it will be proven that Ms. Williams has used her good judgment and leadership. We hope that better judgment will prevail and the petition will be withdrawn. I take my right to vote seriously, so much so that I don't believe I've missed a single election since I was 18 years old. Months before last fall's election, I took it upon myself to vet Ms. Williams, and after seeing her at a couple chamber functions over several months, I took the opportunity to ask her a lot of really tough questions. I try to be an informed voter, and that is why I wanted to know why Ms. Williams should have been re-elected. Ms. Williams was re-elected because she is an excellent clerk. She is recognized as being so by fellow clerks around the Commonwealth. We know it to be true because under her leadership, she and her staff have streamlined the clerk's office and made it a shining example here in the Commonwealth. Time and time again, Ms. Williams has proven herself to be an excellent leader. She takes her job and her position in the community very seriously. She is a woman of action. She has a vision for our clerk's office, and she is willing to take the steps to realize that vision. And her family has been in this county for 3 generations. She loves this county. Over 10,000 of our fellow citizens believe the same thing last November when we re-elected Ms. Williams as clerk. We knew and know that her integrity, judgment, skills, leadership are sound. She is trustworthy, approachable, and is willing to make tough decisions. That's why we wanted her to continue as clerk. Even now, with all of the support she has received personally and on the public Facebook support page, she continues to have support throughout Montgomery County. Let's not let all of this petition stuff cloud our judgment. Let us continue to support Ms. Erica Williams. She is the right woman for our county. She is the right woman for our Commonwealth. She is the right woman for us. Thank you.
There are no other speakers signed up at this point in time, and I'm just going to go around the room and try to recognize hands of individuals who would like to speak. You don't have to speak on this subject. You can speak on any subject before the county, and each citizen will be given 5 minutes. So if you would, is there any other speakers that would like to speak?
My name is Crystal Kessling, and I live at 4323 Dry Valley Road in Montgomery County. Chair Tuck and members of the board. I started working for Allen Burke when I was 20 years old and was rehired by Erica Williams in 2008. I worked in the criminal division, became senior deputy clerk, spent a year in civil, and was backup bookkeeper. I had with me my official personnel file from the county, which has documentation to show promotions, all of my evaluations, which were excellent. I've never received a bad evaluation. The latest evaluation from June gave me a 4.79 out of 5. The clerk stated that I was an asset to the clerk's office and to the county. I had no idea that this was coming. We told Erica back in the spring that we didn't want to be involved in the political side of things and just wanted to do our job. I lost a job that I've had since I was 20 years old and was escorted out, felt like a criminal. The next day, HR informed me that my benefits would end at 5 p.m. that day. I have a 16-month-old, and like my former fellow employees, have small children. This was unexpected loss of benefits, and it was loss of income, and was very devastating. I know as the board, you often hear complaints by residents, but I wanted to come and thank you. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to us, and I want to take this time to thank the citizens for standing by us during this emotional time. We expect support from our friends and family each and every day. However, when support comes in from all corners of the county, from people whom I've never even met, I simply do not possess the words to express my gratitude. Thank you just doesn't seem enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any others who would like to speak? Just a couple hands. And I saw a couple hands come up. If there are individuals who would like to speak, if you could come forward and sit on the front row, that way we can go ahead and call you up. You have 5 minutes.
Okay. My name is Barbara Middleton. I live at 1535 Diana Drive in Christiansburg. And thank you for having this opportunity, Mr. Tuck and board, representing the taxpayers and voters in Montgomery County. I only have just a couple of questions. The lady, I don't know, I'm not a personal friend of Ms. Williams. I'm not a personal friend of these 5 employees that were dismissed. But the lady that spoke, which I didn't really know her, she said malice and political prejudice was being, initiated with these forms or petitions. I'd like to say why she thought that malice and political prejudice was, being in place. To me, it seems like it's more political prejudice where the clerk of court, circuit court, dismissed these people. It is evident with this lady that just gave her evaluation that she had a very high score in her performance. And I would like to know why we've never been given the reason the 5 employees were dismissed. All I've heard from the news media, from Facebook, it's simply because it's for the betterment of the county. Well, shouldn't some reasons be given for the betterment of the county? If these 5 employees were not doing their jobs efficiently prior to the reelection, why weren't they dismissed before December? That's what my first question is. And we do not know. The taxpayers and the voters don't know why these employees. No reason has ever been given. And I realize they do have the right to fire, hire, all that. But I think we as taxpayers need to know why Ms. Williams felt like all 5 people were just not qualified to do her service anymore in her office. And the lady just said here, she and her staff, I want to quote, her staff have been shining examples to the surrounding counties for efficient service. Does that mean just Ms. Williams or her staff? Thank you for listening to me.
Hey, folks, now one of the things I know, and like I said, there's a lot of emotions, and I'm asking folks not to boo and not to clap, again, and that's just to try to run an orderly meeting and also try to keep all of our emotions in check, okay? Now, there were 3 of y'all. I don't know who's first.
My name is Karen Myers. I live at 4902 Mount Tabor Road in Blacksburg. Thank you so much for hearing us speak tonight. I come to you as a citizen of Montgomery County. My concern is over the dismissal of 4 long-term employees of the Clerk of Circuit Court. I understand that you have no direct ability. I learned a lot of information tonight from this gentleman. I'm very thankful for that. I understand you have no direct way of dealing with this, but you do have some financial purse strings, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I do want to make you aware that there are mistakes happening in that office, no matter how little they are or how large they are. On January 5th, my husband and I received our concealed carry permits from Montgomery County with Erica Williams' signature on them. I live in Blacksburg, Virginia. How many of you know what the zip code is for Blacksburg, Virginia? Do you know that our circuit clerk doesn't know what the zip code is? It didn't reflect on my concealed carry permit. It was listed as 24073. So there's a nice letter that comes with your concealed carry permit. It says, this letter is to notify you that your concealed handgun permit has been issued by the court and is enclosed. It is imperative that you review your new permit immediately for any errors. If you find errors on your permit, you must contact us immediately at 382-5760 to make these corrections and to have corrected permit issued to you. If your permit has all the correct information, please sign it immediately. An additional $5 is charged for all replacement permits, including those that are lost and stolen. A $10 fee is charged for permits that require an address change. Should you wish to have your permit laminated, we will provide that service free of charge at our office. It has been a pleasure to provide this service to you. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact our office. Sincerely, Erica Williams. So at the top of this, it has my husband's name with our address. On our 2-page application to receive our permits, it has our zip code. But the zip code that had Erica Williams' signature on it was not mine. It was not correct. Now, is that really a big deal? I don't know. Is it the first time a mistake has happened from that clerk's office for us personally in 30 years? Yes. I find it ironic that someone dismissed 50% of their staff and suddenly there's errors occurring for our family. So I went in, took my concealed carry permit, gave it to them, was taken care of. The young lady who was taking care of me, very nice, very kind. They're obviously all under a lot of pressure. They're working hard. So she's there, she takes care of me, but in the meantime, this young lady sitting beside her continues to interrupt her because she doesn't know the information she needs to be able to complete a marriage license. She's interrupted multiple times while trying to serve me. Really not a big deal, but I'm paying attention because you know what? I'm one of those people who does go to church with the individuals who were left. I will tell you, I know each and every one of them. And I found it personally offensive the way things occurred. Back to my story. So mine's completed. I asked to take care of my husband's. My husband works in a job that isn't an hourly position, he's salary. He's on commission. So I'm taking care of this for him. The young lady says, do you have his card? I said, no, I left it at home. Well, you can't get it. I said, but your letter says I just have to call. Well, you can't get it without the card. but I'm appearing in front of you. I didn't have to according to your letter, correct? It says call, right? That's what Erica Williams told me to do. So shall I step out and have my husband call you to be able to get his permit? She asked the gentleman down at the very end, who says, I don't know, I'll have to go ask Erica. So after 10 minutes of waiting, not a big deal to me, Erica comes out and says, introduces herself just as kind as can be. I'm very appreciative of that customer service. Continues to tell me she researched the code before she came out. Good move, especially at this day and time. State police says they can issue me another one. I just have to have the one that they sent to me that was incorrect back to them. She gives me a self-addressed stamped envelope. Great, I don't need it. I'm coming back tomorrow. I'll bring it with the signature on it, and I want you to laminate it for free. Okay? So they go to issue it. My husband isn't in the computer. His is in a paper pile on somebody's desk. They have to go locate it. Now they issued a concealed carry permit to my husband, but his information isn't in the computer. It isn't a first-time issue, it's a reissue. He'd been issued one before. I'm just asking the question. There's a reason why everything happens. I understand errors happen. I understand mistakes happen. Don't you just find it a little bit ironic?
I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for hearing me again. I addressed you before. I'm Betty Green, 2889 Roanoke Road, Christiansburg, Virginia. And I know that the focus of this effort has been labeled political. And it's trying to be redirected and labeled as that. But I want to say, even though I am a Republican, I would expect if it was a Democrat, Republican, or Independent, I would expect courtesy to my employees or to the public. And I really disagree with what she's done to this. I also disagree with labeling churches like, I'm not a member of the church that has been spoken about, and I don't think that it's an effort from this church or like I said, a political effort either, to try to get a remedy or some kind of conclusion to this matter, because not only Baptists, there have been Methodists, there's Presbyterians, believe it or not, even Pentecostal holiness that have come to me and have been really upset about what has happened. And most of these things have already been said, but what I would like to address the board with and ask you to consider, I would like for the board to consider if Ms. Williams' portion of her salary that is supplemented by the county, we taxpayers, is justified, considering her judgment for the well-being of the office and the manner in which she carried out this situation. It will surely take years, and I literally mean years. I ran an office at Virginia Tech, and I was always even learning something. I retired from Virginia Tech as business manager in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. But it literally takes years to have the knowledge and expertise that these people have gained. And I think from this previous speaker, she spoke to that point, that, I mean, there is no way that the office is going to be up to par. So I would like for you all to please consider at least an adjustment in her salary, because I think she has used very poor judgment in her decision to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
My name is Jeff Ball. I'm the husband of Diana Ball, who worked at the clerk's office for 30 years. I think it was a terrible thing that Erica did. She took the food and the benefits away from 3 kids without disregard. She just took it away. And those people had 80-some years of experience, and now they've got 20-some years of experience. And I just don't see how that works. That was just totally wrong. It was unfair. She deceived the people that voted for her by telling them about how well her staff was, how good they was, and then turn around and fire them for what? If they was that good, why did she fire them? They was good enough to do the job while she was out campaigning with part of her crew. But they wasn't good enough to fulfill the job that they've been doing for some of them 30, some of them 24, some of them 15 years. It was just wrong. Thank you.
Is there any other speakers that would like to address this issue or others?
He didn't give his address, I don't think.
Excuse me. Mr. Vaught, you did not provide your address. Do you mind coming back and providing that? Thank you.
My address is 5344 McCoy Road, Blacksburg.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm James Willis, 4220 Bryce's Fork Road in Blacksburg. I've spoken to you before on this, and I just want to take a couple of minutes to address a couple of things that have been said here tonight. Okay, I'm going to start by giving you a little bit of background on me. In 1979, I joined the U.S. Navy, served aboard submarines because I love my country. I'm appreciative of the freedoms that we have and the processes that guarantee those freedoms. After I spent 9 years in the Navy and I got out, I got involved in politics because I love my country. I appreciate the freedoms we have and the processes that are used to maintain those freedoms. So yes, I'm a member of the Republican Party, active politically, okay? And I would love to come up here and for this to be a political issue so that I can come up here and say, you know what? The Republicans are standing up for the little guys and fighting against a powerful government. But I can't do that. The reason I can't do that is because I got as many Democrats coming up and signing that petition as I have Republicans. And I've got more people that aren't even involved in politics whatsoever than both of those groups combined. A lot of them come up and tell me, I voted for Erica, and I'm just sorely disappointed there. I hate that I did it now. Okay, so this is not a political witch hunt. Never has been, never will be. I've never been to the church that's been discussed here. Couldn't find it without a map. Okay, but it stands to reason that good church-going people will get upset about what's happened to these folks. That's because that's the kind of people that live in Montgomery County. Now, there's good church-going people in a lot of different churches that are having problems with it. Okay, now there's been a lot said about that she, as a constitutional officer, has a right to hire and fire. She does. That's never been up for discussion. We'll acknowledge that. The voters also have a right to hire and fire the constitutional officers, provided for in the same law that provides her with the right to hire and fire. Okay? So as voters, we're exercising that right as provided for in the law. And I would hope that those people that think that we're on a witch hunt would understand and support our using our rights just as much as she did. Now, this is not about whether or not she had the right to hire and fire. It's about whether or not she managed the office in a way that maintains the public trust and serves the voters of Montgomery County. We don't believe that she's done that. We're going to use the law as it was written to make that point. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Again, if there's more public speakers, if you would come forward, if there's folks who would like to address the board.
My name is John Myers. I live at 4902 Mount Tabor Road in Blacksburg. I know that you guys have no control over what Erica did. What she did was legal, and it's not y'all's job to determine whether she needs to stay in that position or not. But one of the things that you do have control over is the supplementation of her pay. It's been said, we heard somebody read her evaluation and how good it was. Erica herself even had said that she had a great team, talked about how good they were at us being a team, and we heard an award that they got as a team. So obviously they were doing things right. In the business world, if I was supervising people and I got rid of 50% of this great team that had been doing such a good job for what appears no reason at all, possibly personal, but let's just say got rid of it for no reason that we've heard of, I doubt my boss would think highly of me and at the end of the year say, yes, John, I think you did a super job of that. I think I'm going to give you a bonus. So all I want to say to y'all is please consider that when that time comes. Has she done something that has really helped the office in this act? Is it possible she's even made the clerk's office of Montgomery County look bad with what has happened? But I just think that's something that you guys can look at and just make a wise decision when that time comes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sherry Burke, 3275 Lightbike Road, Christiansburg. Thank you for listening to us. I only have one thing to say. If it's legal, it may not be right.
Is there anyone else that wishes to address the board on this issue or any other issue? Don't see any other hands and don't see anybody coming forward, so going once. I did this last time, going twice. We're going to go ahead and close the public address portion of our meeting. And Mr. Meadows, is there any addendum?
No, sir, no addendum this evening.
And next on our agenda, I believe, is consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Moss?
Aye.
Aye.
7 ayes.
Next on is the old business, Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act and Consortium Board.
Mr. Chair, the reason this is back on the agenda is at our last meeting there were some questions about the appointment for this position, and the board members had requested some additional information. We've included that under tab C in the agenda for your review, and wanted to see if there were those on the board who were willing to serve on this body.
Okay, so the information is that it's every other month, it's not every month.
That is correct.
Okay, and it only gets into every month if you get on one of the other committees, is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay,
yes, ma'am.
is it your responsibility to be on another committee when you get on there? Or I don't know the setup, but I just know that Bill was very active.
I think I don't know the answer to that, but I would presume that you are, it's a small group, so they probably ask that you participate
But
in
I
some
don't
way
think
in
you
addition
have
to it.
I don't, they didn't have this format when I was on it before, but I think,
Well, I'd be willing to try it. I think that the workforce issue is a big issue in this region, and it's directly tied to education and economic development. So if the board would want me to try it out and see how it goes, I can do that for you.
And Mr. Chair, I'll suggest as the alternate, I believe that I had been appointed as the alternate if the chair couldn't, if former Chair Brown couldn't attend. So and we left that blank because if there was a board member that wanted to take the alternate position, absolutely, that's great. But if there isn't, I'll be glad to serve as the alternate.
I'll take the alternate position because I won't ever have to go. And Ms. Biggs always is very good about attending those things which she said she will do. So, I mean, she can probably, pass her on to a great reward going to one of those things. So I'll be the alternate.
It sounds like, is that a motion, or is there a motion for?
That's an acceptance.
Is there a motion in regards to appointing Ms. Biggs and then Ms. Perkins as an alternate?
I'll
motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. I know I will never have to go. So.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
New business. Resolution opposing the closing of Catawba Hospital.
Absolutely.
Is there a motion?
I motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Well,
Madam Clerk, is there any discussion?
do we have a second?
Yes, we had a second.
Okay, I couldn't hear.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Resolution supporting House Bill 294 to oppose the closing of the Southwestern Virginia Training Center. These are the folks that made a presentation to us 2 weeks ago.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you, discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
In regards to League of Women Voters, did I miss one? League of Women Voters, transfer from general contingencies balance, and it looks balanced, or in general contingencies before this resolution, 383,651.
And that's there to show you we've got $200 if you want to appropriate it.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Next is in regards to appointment for the Montgomery County Tourism Development Council.
This was an appointment that we meant to have on the big master list last meeting, but we inadvertently left it off. Former Supervisor Gabriel had served with this group. It says in the description that this group meets on the fourth Thursday of each month at 9 a.m. in various locations. I can tell you for the past year, due to the difficulty in finding a meeting time that would work for a quorum, that group only met about every other month. And 8:30, 9 o'clock seemed to work. So I would hesitate to say that it meets every month, but it's definitely one that would meet multiple times a year. And it is an advisory board to the tourism office here with the county and the two towns.
I got an email from April saying that she was interested. Is there any
And
other?
that was before I didn't know that they didn't actually meet every month, so.
There you go.
Is there anyone else that is interested in serving on?
I'd like to nominate April to serve on it.
Is there a second?
I'd like to second it.
Well, thanks for believing in me, guys.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
And next on our agenda, resolution of appreciation for Frank Beamer.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
I know that it looks like the county attorney report. You've already given a one long report, but it's so the county administrator's report.
Just a couple of quick things. First off, want to thank the board for their support of me and the decision that we made on Friday regarding the weather situation. We are here to serve the public, and we don't ever like to close, but last Friday was a situation that I knew if we brought employees in, we'd be turning them right back around to send them home, and that just didn't make sense. So we didn't open the office on Friday. That would be great if that's the only winter storm we have this winter. I don't know that that will be the case, but just wanted to mention again that we try to be here when we can, but the most valuable asset this county has are its employees, and I'm not going to put them in harm's way if I can help it. The only other thing I wanted to mention, and it's a meeting that I was made aware of late this afternoon, the county school liaison meeting, the schools let us know that they're able to meet this Thursday at 4:30, and I couldn't, the school board chair and vice chair and the superintendent will be there, and I could not remember honestly if it was the chair and vice chair for our side or if we pointed others or how we were going to structure that.
I think it was Mary and I. She, you know, I won't have to worry, but I'll go.
Well, the fourth.
No, it was Mary and I that did that, you know. So.
Oh, and I was just thinking about 4:30 on. Yeah, I know one of the school boards we met all together, and it's at 4:30 on Thursday. If folks don't mind me trying to look at my calendar real quick just to see if I could be there. And as far as I understand that I work and that puts me in a difficult position, but it seems awkward a little bit. And you guys, I'm putting this out there. Their chair and vice chair is meeting, and I was wondering, and I'm looking to Annette a little bit, if I could be at some of the meetings.
Sure.
Would that be all right? And just
I think I was appointed to that, and then Mary was the other person.
Well, can you and Gary go the first one, maybe?
I can go at 4:30 on Thursday. This one.
That's fine.
And so that works for me. But I got, when it came before us, I want to say it met in the middle of the day.
Well, it had 11 o'clock down, so I'm not sure what happened.
Well, and that's why I mentioned it, because we got an email this afternoon at 4:30 from the school board office saying Thursday at.
Be there or be square.
Yeah.
It's their choice to meet at 11. Is it? Are you?
Well, no, at 4:30.
Oh, at 4:30.
At 4:30.
Oh, okay.
And so that when those later meetings and those evening meetings, I want to do my part and I want to be able to meet. The ones at 11 o'clock, I had a trial that went this morning, and then I had two other in the misdemeanor trials this afternoon that one of them took 2 hours. Sure. And so I can't always know. And Mary was great about filling in with the Chamber of Commerce for me just the other day. But I really want to try to do my part, and it maybe, would it be all right for me to be a part of it, the three of us? Would that be too awkward?
Only two.
No, it's only two of us.
Yeah.
I'm looking to you. Would you be offended, or Mary be offended if I was made a part of that?
No, I think you need to go, because I think it was established back. The person that came up with this idea originally was Joe Gorman during the last year that he was on the board, and it's traditionally been the chair and vice chair.
Okay.
You know, so I think that's a good thing. If you and Gary could go the first one, I think that would set a good precedent worth working with the chair and vice chair of the school board. Gary, can you go?
I don't know. I'd have to check and see what kind of.
Yeah, you were saying
two or three.
You say you work on at
then why
thrift
don't,
store.
Could I suggest that Gary check and see if he can go with Chris? And Gary, if you can't, if you could let us know, one of us could go with Chris. Yeah, just let us know.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Is that a Thursday?
It is this Thursday at 4:30.
Got two things on Thursday.
Okay.
Thursday afternoons are busy, and we'll have to talk with them about it we've got a conflict this time with Fire and Rescue Commission too, but it'll just be a Thursday evening for me, but that's okay.
All right.
That's mine.
Do you need to leave in that?
No, I just need to answer it. Thank you.
Okay.
No, just let us know and we can see.
Do you want to take your report slightly out of order? And I don't know if you had anything else that you wanted to add.
That was it.
Do you want to take your report out of order?
Oh, yeah, sure, it's fine. I really don't have anything much to say except thank you. Again, as I say, I'm looking forward to being probably more able to to meet my obligations with having my husband being quite needy of care. But I do thank you, and anything I can do to help, I'm willing to try to do. And so I thank you all for being able to allow me a little leeway of coming late, sometimes only because of some, personal and home obligations I have. But thank you very much for accepting that. And I think it's going to be great to have our retreat. And I got those questions from Mr. Chandler. And maybe I should say that I need some help from IT because they're half printed out when my printer will work, but I get one every page or 2 pages or skips four questions, and then it looks as if my ink is gone, and I haven't even really run anything on my printer much. So
Want us to have somebody call you in the
yeah,
morning?
would you do that?
Sure.
I would appreciate it, and we can see what we do. But again, I'm just going to take this call, and I'll be back. Thank you.
What do you think?
I know.
We'll go back in order now, and Supervisor King.
I done forgot. I just got a couple of things. One thing, Craig, for looking after the employees of Montgomery County as he did Friday. I mean, I really appreciate that. And I need to throw out a good thought for Steve Phillips and his crew.
Yes.
I mean, they've been out there ever since the snow started, and they was out there for several days. And I appreciate everything they done. And I also want to tell the Sheriff's Department how much I appreciate them. All the first responders, I mean, they was out there in full force, done what they could, and done an extra good job at it. Even you, Hank. And first responders, I mean, rescue and fire, I mean, they all work together, and I appreciate all that. And that's about all I have.
Can we all ditto that?
Huh?
Ditto.
Doo-doo.
What you said.
Supervisor Creed.
Don't have any.
Supervisor Biggs.
Okay, a few things. One of the things, are we going to do a resolution for Sarah Woolsey and Joe Ivers?
We are.
That'll be coming up?
Yes,
Okay, because I
ma'am.
know Bill wanted us to do that. And the other thing is, one thing I forgot to put in the school board meeting report was that they had this discussion about on their second meeting, having it in a situation where they were in like a conference room, so they could actually talk across to each other instead of like this, because it's easier to do in a work session. But then they realized they'd have to work out the logistics of, public address and having it covered. So they decided to sort of further look at that, and I forgot to put that in my report that I sent to you guys. Then I'm not sure on the school board. I went to that meeting because I wasn't sure how we left it, that night, like who was going to cover what. It turned out that meeting lasted till 12:20, so it was like a wild meeting. But anyway, so maybe like before the next school board meeting, we can decide, I'll look at our schedules. I can look at mine, or I think Daryl, you suggested doing it by the month or something.
Yeah, I thought Craig asked Vicki to do a schedule or something.
Yeah, we didn't ever get a schedule, so I just went thinking if I saw someone else there, I'd leave, but nobody else was there.
We can make a schedule as long as you don't shoot us if you don't like the month.
Okay. And then,
We'll float it out there.
oh, Chris, this is from the chamber to you. It's your folder and
Thank you very much.
everything from the other day. And then I also wanted to talk about that I did attend the Dialogue on Race that was held Saturday, January 16th, and I brought back a copy of the program for everyone. And then they had inside the different committees that meet all during the year, and they're different ones: education and employment, income gap, etc. And if you're interested in being involved with any of them, they're open to everyone. So the county was thanked at least 3 times that I heard publicly for our support. And I sent an email to to Todd because he was interested in the sort of the setup there. And we met at the Cross Point, and it was the sort of the building at the end. I'd never been in it. And I can see why it's conducive for meeting in that they had comfortable chairs and they had round tables, and it was easy to sort of feel comfortable. It wasn't like going into like a school environment or a county environment, but for what that's worth, I thought it would bring it back to you because I knew you had concerns, and I also expressed to Ms. Franklin your concerns about the Montgomery County Public School, employees using that. So here's a copy for everybody, and there you go. And that's all.
Supervisor DeMont.
I just have a little bit. I wanted to specifically say that I was very happy to see the strong support of this board. It makes me proud to be a member of this board when we support things like opposing the closing of Catawba Hospital and opposing the closing of Southwestern Virginia Training Center. It makes me very happy that I have become a part of this because I know that says a lot about the character of everybody that I'm working with. So I wanted to say thank you for that. And then also, I just want to echo what Todd said about a huge thank you to road crews and first responders. I know I manage apartment communities in Blacksburg, and so I got to meet with our private contractors that did snow removal today, and they were exhausted. So I know we have a lot of men and women in Montgomery County that are exhausted, but their efforts were much appreciated. And I stayed home the entire time, so I stayed off the roads as advised.
Supervisor Shepherd.
In the last meeting, I volunteered to be on the Economic Development Commission, which we said had met on the second or third Thursday of the month. Well, after doing some investigating, they meet on the fourth Thursday. I did meet with Brenda Rigney and Brian Hamilton today for an orientation, so I'm online with that.
I guess you got a meeting this week, don't you?
Yeah, Thursday.
Anything else? Well, it falls to me. There's a few things. Obviously, the last couple of meetings, we have had a lot of different speakers speak about the issue involving the circuit court clerk and that situation. We have heard tonight what we can legally do, which is not very much. We are not part of the petition. Those are things that we cannot address. That is up to the citizens and then a circuit court judge. In regards to the supplement that we provide her salary, and we provide supplements in regards to all the constitutional officers, some of that is referred to merit pay. And so, but at the same time, no one reviews the job that they are doing. So we review Craig in regards to merit pay. We review Marty in regards to merit pay. But there is no one reviewing, but yet we are, as the folks who write the checks, we are the ones who are writing that check for them. There's a few things. One, I do not believe making a decision tonight is the right thing to do. I think reflecting on the information that we received, but I think we also need to gather additional information. Perhaps we could reach out to the employees who, and one of them offered her evaluations, perhaps the other, those folks. It would be wrong not to give Ms. Williams the opportunity to address. Those are the things that are in my mind. I also, as someone who is in and out of that courthouse on a regular basis, have continued to see the issues that they're having at this point in time and struggling. I received a phone call from a lady who volunteers to be guardian for folks who have no family members and qualified, and she was not able to get through on the phones. And this is a lady who volunteers to do this. So these are people in nursing homes, and she's not able to reach folks, and she's repeatedly. Then finally, when she gets something, she's told, well, just fax it in. Well, she didn't get their fax number. She calls another employee and says, we don't accept faxes. And she said, wait a minute, I just talked to somebody who said we did. And so those are the type of things that are disturbing to me that I see because of the work environment that I'm in that perhaps that you don't see. So I would like to gather some information. Again, I think making any type of decision this evening is the wrong decision, but I also think while we're looking at Erica Williams and her merit pay and whether that's something that we should be doing, I think we need to develop some kind of policy overall that we simply, if we are going to be giving merit pay, that we need to have a policy in place to our constitutional officers. And does that mean that we do it? And if they don't want to be part of that pay plan, if they don't want us evaluating us, then they don't have to take the money. But to me, if I'm going to be voting on a budget and I'm going to be giving someone money and I'm going to be, part of it is going to be called merit pay, I want somebody evaluating it. So that's where I'm at as far as my position. And on this issue, I understand I'm not speaking on behalf of the board. I'm speaking on behalf of District B and myself. This board hasn't taken any official action in regards to this. Again, all of us were waiting to hear the legal briefs about what we should, could, might want to do. But this gives us an opportunity, and this is something that we may be able to address at the next meeting and see what staff can come up with. Other than that, if there's no further business, this meeting's adjourned.
Oh, thank you. Yay.